Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast for agency owners, hosted by agency veteran and coach Steve Guberman. Agency Bytes is a podcast focused on delivering actionable agency information from agency experts in about 25 minutes. Why 25 minutes? Because who has the attention span for much more these days? And you can squeeze in a listen between meetings with time for a bathroom break or coffee refill before your next meeting.
Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast dedicated to helping creative entrepreneurs thrive. I'm Steve Guberman from Agency Outsight, where I coach agency owners to build the agency of their dreams. Today, I'm thrilled to have Ryan Rhoten, owner of the Distilled brand, on the show. Ryan is a true expert in brand positioning and messaging, and he's helped develop the brand messaging system to help business owners communicate their brilliance in a way that connects deeply with their audience. His proven process simplifies complex ideas into clear, compelling messages, something every agency owner can learn from. I'm excited to dive into your insights and hear more about how agencies can sharpen their messaging to stand out in today's crowded marketplace. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, just a couple of good-looking guys with the hair in all the wrong places on our faces. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you grow it when you're bald. You grow it on your face because you can't get it up top. So.
That's it. So the Distilled brand, what's the story there? What do you do and who do you do it for and how'd you get into it?
So what we do is we help really entrepreneurs align what I like to say sometimes is their internal expertise with external perceptions. Which is a complicated way of saying I help them communicate their brilliance so that everybody knows who they are and what they do without guessing, which is a very common problem that I run into with agency owners. You're so close to what you do, it's really hard to talk about it. Like you feel like I should be, I own the company. I should be the person who can talk about my company succinctly. But that's absolutely not true.
Well, yeah, that's not true. They're too close to it, or every time they meet somebody, it's a different story. So right, exactly. Not a succinct message that they're just delivering out.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I do. I do it with entrepreneurs and coaches, consultants, authors, a lot of leadership development folks I work with. I think that's also just because of my past career. Originally the company was called Career Brand, and I did that type of work for people. So people would still gravitate towards me, but I think because of that experience, a lot of leadership development type folks kind of gravitate towards me.
Interesting. So leadership development more in the corporate America space, less in the creative entrepreneurship space?
No. So they're coaches and consultants who are doing leadership development within a corporation, right? So they typically will go into a company to make individuals or the organization better in some way. So they're taking with them, like their own proprietary knowledge or process, and they're going into a corporation and they're helping that corporation become better in some way. So that maybe they're teaching leadership development, change management, all kinds of different stuff. Career coaches also fall into that category as well. But I don't just work with them. I work with a broad spectrum of folks. In fact, I just signed a contract today with the person who does WordPress training. So everybody needs help with messaging. I help people distill down what they should say, how they should say it, and when they should say it in a way that makes sense.
Love it. Can you, I guess, talk through or walk through what is, some of the key aspects of your process that agency owners can learn from?
Yeah, sure. So I love to look at messaging in a way like an obstacle course, right? So you have a starting point and you have an ending point. And when you start at the beginning of the obstacle course, you have an objective. There's something you're trying to achieve. There's something you want. Mm-hmm. And as you move along the obstacle course towards the end, your objective, you run into these things called obstacles. Also problems, pain points, probably heard them referred to in that, previously. So when you hit a problem or a pain point or an obstacle, as I like to call them, you usually get stuck. And what I find is most people, especially entrepreneurs, smart, creative people, feel like I can dig my way through this. Like I can figure out how to do this on my own. Right. And so they spend lots of times reading books, listening to podcasts, taking courses, even hiring other marketing agencies. I'm actually kind of surprised how many people come to me after they've gone to a marketing agency. Mm-hmm. But they try to figure out kind of on their own or with a little bit of help how to get past this obstacle. And that obstacle creates within them objections, fears, feelings, things that they think, say, and ask themselves. Usually it's in your brain, but you start to feel a
Hmm.
certain way about it, and when people buy from you, they don't actually buy because they're trying to get to this objective at the end, although they justify their purchase because of it. They
Right.
buy because they want to remove these objections, these feelings that they have, the anxiety or frustration that they have because they can't figure out how to talk about something. So you buy based on those objections, and a lot of messaging leaves out those things. We don't talk typically to the human side of it. We only want to talk about the
Yeah.
outcomes and the objectives people are trying to get to, and we forget that there's a human that's trying to get there. And so my process looks at the objectives, the obstacles, those feelings that they create. Your offer is the thing that gets them up and over that obstacle so that they can then move to the end of the obstacle course and achieve whatever outcome or objective is that they're trying to get to.
So what are examples of, let's say an agency is currently messaging targeting pain points, but you would flip that more into the emotional side of who's making the decision on the other end.
Yeah, potentially. It depends on who their audience is and how receptive they are to that. Some audiences just want to, like, people don't want to get into the emotional piece of it, but
Mhm.
it's that emotional piece that you weave into your copy that captures people's attention. So you do want to message to problems, you do want to message to objectives or and outcomes that people seek, of course, because that can capture people's attention. But if you really want to get them up and over that obstacle, you have to talk about the emotional aspect of what those problems create within somebody.
So give an example, and like I look at that as here's what I solve, but here's the benefit of solving that, and I think that's kind of a twist to what you're saying
True.
is the
Yeah. So
problem.
the problem that you're solving, how does
Yeah,
that problem make you feel?
yeah,
Does it stress you out? Does it make you frustrated? Does it make you overwhelmed? Like, a lot of people get really overwhelmed with stuff
hmm,
and it just stops them. Like, they can't go any further because their brain just won't let them go.
yeah,
Right. So you have to address those things. You have to tell people that you understand them. And when you can make that connection with them because you're talking to the feelings that they're experiencing, they immediately make a connection with you and you start to already build trust with them, and their brain goes from, can Ryan help me, to, oh crap, Ryan understands me. And when somebody says Ryan understands me, they immediately start to assume that I can help them.
interesting. Okay, and so what you're delivering is more than just like that, one line positioning statement that they'll throw on their website or the 30-second elevator pitch, but it's more positioning that they would integrate through their website or pitch deck or literally
Yeah,
anything that they would
correct.
need. Yeah.
Yeah, no, when you're like, they get an entire messaging playbook essentially, that talks through everything. We identify all the obstacles, objections, all the four, I call them the four O's, by the way, but all the four O's that I just talked about, their audience, we talked through that. I give them, here's what you say when you say it,
Mhm.
boilerplates, templates. Here's how you apply messaging to everything. So how do you put it in your emails? How do you put it into your content? Which is a really big thing for most folks, because we just do content wrong. Um, right. So anywhere that you need to do marketing, I teach people, here's what you need to say, and then here's how you say it wherever you do it. So that's one area that's a little bit different. I'm a little bit different than most folks. I specifically focus on messaging and how you can say the right things everywhere, as opposed to saying, I'm going to help you just build out content.
Yeah.
That is a piece of what I do. I teach people how to do it, but I'm not going to like go write the content for them, but I'm going to show them, here's how you do it. And then once you've done it, we'll take a look at it and make sure that it aligns with the messaging guide that we've just put together for you.
What are the four O's that you just referenced?
So the objectives that people want to
Hmm.
achieve, the obstacles that are in their past, the objections that those obstacles create for them, and then
Hmm.
ultimately the outcomes that they achieve when they go through the process.
Nice. Love that. And what's the process that what does the process look like that you bring owners through or agency folks through? And you know, steps, duration,
Yeah,
time, etc.
yeah. Yeah, it's a super defined process, very structured. That's one thing that a lot of feedback I get after the process is that they, before they were looking for something that was very structured, and that, had a defined beginning and a defined end, which
Hmm.
I definitely deliver, right? So my process has 9 steps. We go through identifying your audience. We do what I call identifying your ingredients, which is essentially the 4 O's. Plus, there's a couple other things that we talk about in there because I need to know what are all the pieces that we're going to work with so that when we get to step 3, I can start to distill your message, like
Hmm.
figure out, okay, this is what you should start to say. Then I take a look in step 4 at their offer. Some people have lots of offers, like small little offers floating around that don't seem to add up to anything big. And
Hmm.
so I help them take all that stuff and put it together into one succinct offer that they can, sell as either a high ticket offer, which most don't have. So I go through their offer and that's a really important piece because the way I do it, if we do it the right way, they will have all of their marketing figured out forever. Like
Yeah.
they'll know exactly how to talk about their product. After that, we then
Hmm.
take all of the stuff we've done up to that point, and I actually will put copy out for their website. So I'll tell them from the hero section to the footer, here's the story that you need to tell on your website in order for customers, or prospects when they visit your site, they go, oh, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about me. I think the biggest piece of all this is the messaging that I do is customer focused. And that's
Yep.
where people get confused. Most of them still treat the internet and content and all that stuff as a brochure about themselves and their business.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't apply anymore. That might have
No.
worked 10 years ago, but today you have to be talking your customer's language. So I help them get their customer's language onto the website. And then from there, what I do is I help them with LinkedIn. So we get their their about section in our LinkedIn profile set up. I help them get their company page set up so that now everything is aligning.
Hmm.
So that if I want to do research on you, Steve, I don't have to I can go to different places and see the exact same messaging, and I know exactly what I'm going to get from you, as opposed to having to try to interpret it.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Consistency? What?
Yeah, exactly. And then my last 2 steps are just I help them with content. So I've got some stuff that we go through to make sure that their content aligns with the values that they provide, talks to their customers, and then finally we work through all the different things that they can do on LinkedIn in order to be able to start to boost their brand, build their credibility and reputation and authority.
And with this playbook, then they can build this into a system that they can say, all right, every day I'm doing this or every other day I'm doing that, whether it's outreach or organic content or whatever. But they've got this playbook that is
Yep.
their messaging system of what to say and how to say it and where to say it. And yeah,
Correct.
love
Yeah.
that.
And what some of my customers will do with it is they'll take that playbook now and then they'll take it to an agency who does social media or posting or whatever and
Yep.
say, this is how you talk about my business.
Nice.
That's where people have come back to me after they've gone to an agency because a lot of agencies don't go as in depth into messaging because they do so much other stuff for folks
Yeah.
that messaging is just a small piece. For me, messaging is all the piece. And so when you're done with me, you have a complete playbook that you can hand off and people will be able to speak in your language to your customers in the way that you want them to.
Love that. Where do you stand or what are your belief systems on niching?
It's funny. I just had this conversation this morning. I think it's important, especially in the beginning, to really get your offer out there and make sure that people understand who you are and what you do. It is so much easier to become known for something
Hmm.
when you are more specialized in an area. For example, I had a guy just this morning I was working with. He said, I help purpose driven companies. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but what does that mean? Like, I don't understand what that means. Like, how
Yeah.
do I know if I'm a purpose driven company? Because I think I have a purpose. So maybe I'm a purpose driven company. So anyway, we started talking through all of his different customers and found out that he works mostly with healthcare people. I'm like, huh,
Yeah.
just think about that. If you just change your language from I work from purpose driven company to now I work with healthcare people, now I know whether or not I need to be working with you if I'm in healthcare.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to know stuff. It's something else to be known for knowing stuff.
Yeah.
And all of us should be trying to be known for knowing stuff. And the only way that we can do that is if we're known in a niche or an area where people go, oh, if you need this done, you have to call Steve. Steve is a guy, he does an amazing job. Like, that's what we should all strive for. And the only way you can get there is to really start to kind of narrow in on your focus on who you want to work with.
Yeah.
After you've had some time in that area and you start to build a reputation, you know that your process and framework can work with other industries. You might be able to start marketing it to them too. But in the beginning, especially, or if you're just pivoting, focus in really on what your one niche needs to be.
Yeah, and I fully agree with that. And this is episode 105, and I bet you 80 of the previous episodes somebody has talked about the value of niching, and so many owners fight it. And typically they fight it in the beginning because shit, we got to just keep the lights on. I got to pay people. I'll take any client, any industry, any size, any whatever. And so it dilutes their service offering, it dilutes their messaging. They don't know where to look for clients because they're playing in every ball field that exists. And so at some point they're like, all right, how do we lean into what we've built here? Break it down into 1, 2, 3 verticals that we specialize in, build messaging around that. And now we know where to find clients, how to position ourselves, how to speak to them, speak their language. So yeah, to me, it's just one of the biggest like light bulb moments that I think owners find, no, I don't say too late, but years down the road,
Yeah. Well, I think you have to have some experience under your belt, and honestly, you have to get frustrated with your current system. Like
lack of system.
You have to go like, oh man, I'm just so busy all the time. I'm working all the time. I can't figure out what to do. You need that like pain, that friction, for you to really start to kind of change. I mean, that was another discussion I was having just this morning with a entrepreneur. Is you'll stay the same until the pain gets to a point where you decide I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So I can either help you get past that point faster, or you can just keep doing what you want to do and then come back to me later when you're ready.
Yeah.
And so, we were talking about his offer, and he's like, well, my offer can do this and this and this. Cause he used the word custom. And anytime I hear the word custom, I get like the hairs on my head, they stand up. I'm like, wait a minute. Because, even a custom home builder does not provide custom products, right? A custom home builder provides you with choices and options that for them is standard stuff.
Right.
And so, no one goes to a custom home builder and they hand you a blank sheet of paper and they say, here, draw your house.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. They say, what floor plan would you like? And they give you a choice of 2 or 3. Boom, you just picked one. Now, as the person buying the home, I just feel like I just got a custom home because I picked the floor plan I want. But for the custom home builder, it's just a floor plan.
Yeah.
And we really have to start thinking about stuff in that manner from a business standpoint. Is if you really look at 80% of what you do, it's probably the same for every single client. And if you can take that 80% and package it up into an offer that makes sense for you, standardizes your work, eliminates all this quote custom stuff that gets floating around, you become more profitable. And more importantly, from a messaging standpoint, you now know what to say, when to say it, how to say it, and who to say it to.
Yeah, getting rid of the customization and throwing more things onto the Chinese menu, so it gives me the ability to market myself properly. But then also now the more that's not the right word, the more systematically I can deliver what it is that I'm selling, the solutions to the clients, the more efficient we become as a team, the more profitable we become as a team, the more my team knows what they need to do on a day-to-day. There's no surprises of, shoot, how are we going to create this new thing that we've never done before and waste time trying to figure it out? So, yeah, big fan of that.
Yeah, that's why I said if you design your offer the right way, your messaging becomes easier too, and you basically take care of all of your marketing. Like you don't have to sell anymore because your marketing will be selling your offer every time you talk about it.
So then how do you kind of future proof, I guess, if you can even consider that, where services may adapt over time or may change over time, where we're bringing in kind of adjacent new services of now we do this and now we do that. Not just we'll do anything kitchen sink under the sun, but this is a strategic move we're going to make. How do you kind of future proof for that?
Yeah, so I work with my clients to implement a very specific structured, again, in case you can't tell, I'm kind of process driven.
Some OCD there. I like it.
I used to be a Six Sigma black belt in the corporate world. So like everything to me is a process. Like I see and think in processes, right? So I work with them to use a very specific methodology to define their offer. And as they look at new services they want to introduce, what they learn is the way that they should approach creating that offer and putting it together so that they experience the same types of efficiencies, the same types of standardizations and profitability from new offers. And more importantly, it focuses them and prevents them, or it gets them to say the word that entrepreneurs do not like to say, which is no. No, we're not going to do this.
Right.
Super hard for people to do, but one of the biggest things you can learn to say. It'll help your business tremendously if you can learn how to say no.
No, it's a complete sentence and it's easy to do.
So
as an example, your elevator pitch, how do you meet somebody in an RV park or at a meeting or whatever? How do you introduce yourself, or what's your kind of honed message that you use for you?
Yeah, most of the time I just say something along the lines of, I help entrepreneurs clearly articulate who they are and what they do so people don't have to guess.
Yeah. Clear, clean.
Because, that when it comes down to it, that's one of the most important things that you'll ever do as an entrepreneur, in my opinion, is really nail down how you talk about your business. Because it's not just you. If you have a team, your team needs to talk the same way about your business. They need the same messaging. They need the same kind of playbook.
Yep.
Your sales guys, gals need to know how to talk about your business. And you can't have people saying things that are different than what than what you want them to say. So creating a messaging playbook that you get everybody on the same page for is what you want to do. To me, it's the most critical thing that you can do as an entrepreneur, because it drives everything. If your ads suck, it's probably because you don't have the right messaging, right? If your marketing's not working, if your website's not converting, if you just don't feel like in a conversation like this that you can answer what you do in a succinct manner, people feel that.
Yep.
And they start to lose a little bit of confidence in your ability to help them solve problems.
And so those are, I guess, some of the identifying red flags that agency owners can look for that you just kind of rattled off. Your website's not converting, ads aren't converting. The owner, the sales team, anybody on the team doesn't know how to communicate, articulate what you do, the benefits. Are there other things that you've seen that are just like, palm to the forehead, like how is a marketing agency doing this? Fill in the blank.
Yeah, well, I focus specifically on messaging, and one of the things that I always look for is, can I go to anybody's website, about page, LinkedIn, any marketing materials, and can I figure out what they do quickly?
Yeah.
And if I can't figure out what they do in their hero section, then I got to I'll scroll down a little bit further. And if I get to the bottom of the page and I can't figure out what they do, that's just me from a messaging. Like I'm a geek like that. I even look at billboards on the highway and try to figure out what they're trying to tell me. Are they saying it right? And they say it in the right way. If you can't get there, then people are going to move on. I'm going to move on. Somebody else is going to move on. How many times have you gone to a website? Like I tell people this, and this is a big mistake people make, is they want to tell me about the history of their company. And I don't the truth is, I don't care. Your customers don't care. In the funnel, as you move them down the sales funnel, that stuff might become important from a credibility and authority standpoint, but hitting them with that on the front page of your website, for example, which I see a lot of people do, nobody cares. We just don't. And here's why: our customers are selfish, right? Yeah. When you and I are shopping for something, we care about us. We don't care about you. Imagine if you had to go to Amazon and you were buying something, and before you could click the buy now button, you had to read about the history of Amazon and how Jeff Bezos founded the company and all that stuff. At some point you're gonna be like, screw this, I'm out. I don't even remember why I'm here.
Yeah.
And I see that so often on so many websites and so much marketing material. Your story is great. It should be a part of your messaging somewhere and in your content somewhere, but people don't care about it initially. No. We're all selfish. We have a problem. We're looking for a solution. I want to know whether you understand me so that I know if you can help me. Once I know those things, then that other stuff starts to become a little bit more important. But I still have to have the confidence that you can help me solve a problem, not a confidence that, you've been in business 150 years, great. That doesn't help me understand if you can solve my problem.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah, I agree. Bury, that nonsense. It doesn't need to be the most paramount piece of information. Yeah. I also kind of, I look through things through the lens of what are you saying and who are you saying it to and what's the benefit here? And same thing, if I see a product or a billboard, I'm like, who are you and who are you even talking to? It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah.
I think that's another mistake. People confuse benefits with features.
Yeah.
A feature is this has 6200 RAM. Whatever. I'm making that number up. Right. What you really need to get to is what's the benefit of that? Like, I don't
Yep.
care that it, like I got a water bottle here. I don't care that it's 22 ounces. What I care about is the benefit, which is I can have water anytime I want it when it's full, right?
Yeah.
I can carry it around with me. I don't have to find a water faucet. I don't have to buy a bottle somewhere. I have my own bottle. That's a benefit to me.
Yep.
The features is it'll hold 22 ounces of water. It's made out of this material. A lot of people like to talk about that kind of stuff, especially if they're a product specific agency.
Yeah. Love it. Want to just kind of throw a couple of random rapid fire questions at you to wrap things up here.
Sure.
The first is, what is something that you are binging that you just can't get enough of these days, whether it's a hobby or a book or a podcast or a show?
Well, I would say RVing, but I have been binge watching Silo, on Apple TV.
Yeah.
And like that one, I can't get enough of it right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty good show. I'm digging that too.
And that's my new one. I just finished, and this is embarrassing, but I'll admit it. I just finished watching the Great British Bake Off show. My wife and I binge watched that over the last holiday season. So, but we're moving on, and I didn't learn how to cook anything in that program.
My fiance loves that show, so I get dragged into it occasionally. It's fun. I'll jump into it with her. What's a gadget or a tool or something you recently integrated into your life that you look back and you're like, how did I live without this coffee mug or whatever thing you use in your life?
Yeah, interesting. I would say, and it surprises me to say this because I'm looking right at it right here. iPad Mini. I've always been an iPad person. I draw a lot on the iPad, especially when I'm just explaining concepts or models to people. And I always thought I got to have the big 11-inch iPad Pro. And I recently just decided, let's just try the Mini out for fun. And it has become indispensable. Like, I can take it anywhere with me now. It does everything that the iPad Pro does, just in a smaller form factor, which means that it's easier to carry around with me where I go. So.
Sweet. I dig that. I've never used the Mini, or at least it's been ages since I used the Mini, probably since its first iteration. And then finally, what is an invaluable piece of business advice that you could have shared with your younger version of yourself if you can go back in time?
Yeah, two things. One, have fun. And two, you don't need to know everything tomorrow because you're not going to figure it all out tomorrow. I'm looking at my youngest son now, and he's buying into this hustle, grind, get it all done. Like, you just can't do that. And I did that when I got out of school too and got into, the workplace. I spent 25 years in corporations before I started my own business. And I felt that urge when I started my business. Oh, I got to learn this. I got to do this. I got to do that thing. No, focus, prioritize, get everything in alignment, and move forward at a good pace. There's a reason why Kaizen means to take small steps for incremental improvement, not giant leaps. And if you're taking small steps and you look back over the course of a year or 2 years, you'll realize that you've made significant progress, and you can't make that same kind of significant progress just grinding away all the time, if you will.
Yeah, I love that. Small progressive steps forward. Ryan, I appreciate you spending some time with us. Folks, if you are interested in checking out Ryan and the Distilled brand to move your messaging forward, go to thedistilledbrand.com, see what Ryan's got going on, connect with him on LinkedIn. Ryan, thank you very, very much. I appreciate you and your time.
No, thank you, Steve. I appreciate being here.
Thanks again for tuning in to Agency Bytes. If you know someone with expert knowledge on a topic that agency owners would love to hear about, go to agencyoutsight.com/podcast-guest and nominate them.